Most people think you need money to make money, but that's exactly the lie that's keeping you broke. I'm going to show you the exact foundation you need to go from zero to your first $1 million in 2026. Even if you have no savings, no investments, and no financial background whatsoever. Hey, I'm Todd. A few years ago, I was working a job making someone else rich, earning $69,000 a year, living paycheck to paycheck with zero savings and absolutely no idea how to change it. I tried everything. Side hustles, get-rich-quick schemes, you name it. And nothing seriously worked. Then I discovered a proven foundation that completely changed my financial life forever. Today I want to show you the exact shortcut I took and the tips I learned along the way that will put you on the fastest path to your first $1 million. All right, so here's what we're going to cover today. The exact foundation every self-made millionaire builds their wealth on. The single cheat code that accelerates everything. My top 10 tips for generating serious wealth. And the 4 things you absolutely must avoid if you want to reach your first million. Stay until the end. Because those 4 things to avoid, that might be the most important thing you hear today. And most people only learn them the hard way. Let's start with the foundation. And I know, that word gets thrown around a lot. But I'm not talking about motivation or mindset fluff. I mean a real proven repeatable formula that every successful millionaire I've ever studied has used, whether they knew it or not. It's called the Millionaire Success Formula, and it breaks down into 5 key principles. And this is the part where most people zone out. Don't. Because these 5 things are the difference between spinning your wheels for years and actually getting somewhere. The first one seems almost too simple. Know your outcome. Now you might be wondering, how can just knowing what you want actually make you richer? Most people have a general idea of what they want. They want to be wealthy. They want to be comfortable. They want to retire early. But vague goals produce vague results. Every time. Millionaires don't say, I want to be rich. They say, I want $1 million in investable assets by December 31st, 2026. See the difference? The more specific your target, the harder your brain works to find the path toward it. So right now, before we go any further, define exactly what your outcome is. Write it down, put a number on it, put a date on it. That one act alone puts you ahead of 90% of people. The second principle is one nobody talks about enough. Know your why. Look, the path to your first million is not going to be smooth. There will be setbacks. There will be moments where you want to quit. I remember sitting at my kitchen table at 11 p.m., staring at a credit card bill I couldn't pay, thinking, is this it? Is this just my life now? That was the moment I got crystal clear on my why. I wasn't doing this for a nicer car. I was doing it because I refused to spend the next 30 years feeling that way. And the only thing that'll keep you going when those moments hit is your why. What is your deep emotional reason that this goal is non-negotiable for you? Is it freedom? Is it your family? Is it never having to feel that 11 p.m. panic again? Whatever it is, get crystal clear on it. Because when the inevitable obstacles show up, your why is the only thing standing between you and giving up. Third principle. And this one is where most people get it wrong. Take massive action. Now you might be thinking, Todd, I already know I need to take action. And yeah, you're right. But here's the part most people miss. There's a massive difference between casual action and massive action. Casual action is trying something for a few weeks and stopping when it gets hard. Massive action is going all in. Committing fully and treating your goal like your financial life depends on it. Because it does. Vision without execution is just daydreaming. The millionaires I've studied didn't just have great ideas. They executed relentlessly. Fourth principle, this one's like a GPS. Notice what you're getting. You put in the destination, you start driving. But if the road is blocked, the GPS doesn't just shut down. It recalculates. You need to do the same thing. Constantly evaluate whether what you're doing is actually moving you closer to your goal or further away. Most people stay stuck because they keep doing the same things and expecting different results. Pay attention to your results. They're telling you something. And the fifth principle, this is where most people fall apart. Change your approach. When things aren't working, the average person either quits completely or just does the same thing harder. Neither works. The smart move? Change your approach. If your current strategy isn't producing results, learn from the feedback and adjust. The millionaire mindset isn't about being right. It's about being effective. Keep refining until you find what works. Then go all in. These 5 principles are the engine underneath every success story you've ever heard. And the good news? They cost nothing to implement. $0 required. Now here's where it gets really interesting. What's the fastest way to build on top of that? What's the shortcut that most people never find? The cheat code is this. Replicate a millionaire. Find someone who's already achieved what you want. Study exactly what they did. And model it. Don't reinvent the wheel. The wheel already exists. The fastest path between where you are now and your first million is to find someone who's already walked that path and follow their exact steps. Okay, Todd, but how do I actually find someone to replicate? When I decided I wanted to build a real estate investment business while working a full-time job, I found one guy. A regular person, not a celebrity, who was already successful at doing exactly what I wanted to do. He was sharing his process openly on YouTube. I studied every video he posted. I read everything he wrote. I modeled his exact approach, adapted it to my situation, and started executing. I didn't exactly copy him. I learned from him. And that decision alone saved me probably 2 years of expensive trial and error. Here's one of the most powerful examples of how this works in practice. The internet has created more millionaires in the last decade than any other vehicle in history, and the barrier to entry has never been lower. You can start a digital product business with zero inventory. You can start a service business with nothing but a laptop and a skill. You can start an affiliate marketing business, promoting other people's products and earning commissions without ever creating anything yourself. You can even use AI to create social media content and post videos. And that right there is one of the most underrated paths to building a 7-figure business available right now. The model you choose matters less than the commitment you bring to it. Pick one. Replicate someone who's already winning at it, and take massive action. All right, let's move on from the principles and give you some tips I learned along the way. Here's the 10 tips. These are the specific behaviors and decisions I learned that separate people who talk about being wealthy from the people who actually get there. Pay close attention. First one, and honestly, this is the one that cost me the most time before I figured it out. Start before you're ready. Nobody who became a millionaire waited until they had everything figured out. The perfect moment doesn't exist. The knowledge you need comes from doing, not from preparing to do. Start now with whatever you have. Adjust as you go. Tip 2 is huge. Build multiple streams of income. A single income stream is a single point of failure. Millionaires don't rely on one paycheck. They build systems that generate income from multiple sources at the same time. Investments, businesses, royalties, rental income, digital products. Start with one. Keep adding. Tip 3, and most people get this completely backwards. Invest in yourself first. Before you invest in stocks, crypto, or real estate, invest in your own skills and knowledge. The highest return on investment you will ever get is the return on developing a skill the market values highly. One new skill can multiply your income by 10 times. No stock does that. Tip 4. Live below your means, but not forever. And this part matters. In the early stages of wealth building, the gap between what you earn and what you spend is your most powerful tool. That gap is what funds your investments. That gap is what gives you options. But living below your means is a strategy, not a life sentence. As your income grows, your investments grow faster than your lifestyle, and that's when the magic happens. Tip 5. And this one is uncomfortable for a lot of people. Surround yourself with the right people. You've probably heard that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And in the context of wealth building, this is completely true. Don't get me wrong. I had good friends. Great friends, actually. But when I started talking about building a business, the responses I got were things like, "That's risky," and "You've got a stable job. Why would you mess with that?" And I realized these people weren't bad people. They just had a different relationship with money and risk than where I wanted to go. So I made a hard decision. I started spending less time in those conversations and more time around people who were actually building things. Within 6 months, my entire thinking had shifted. If everyone around you is comfortable being average, average is what you'll become. Find people who are building something. Find people who are ahead of where you want to be. Their mindset will become your mindset. Tip 6, and this is the highest paid skill in the world, full stop. Master the art of selling. Every single millionaire I've ever studied, regardless of their industry, knows how to sell. Not in a pushy, aggressive way, but in the sense of communicating value clearly and compellingly. Whether you're selling a product, a service, an idea, or yourself, the ability to sell is the highest paid skill in the world. Learn it. Tip 7. This is the simplest wealth formula I know. Solve problems at scale. The more people whose problems you solve, and the bigger those problems are, the more money you'll make. That's it. Stop asking, how do I make more money? Start asking, whose problem can I solve, and how many people have that problem? That shift in thinking alone is worth $1 million. Tip 8, and I'm going to be honest. This one is hard to accept at first. Be patient with the process. Compound growth looks invisible for a long time. And then suddenly, it's unstoppable. The results feel slow at first. Then they feel like they happened overnight. Most people quit right before that moment. Don't be most people. Tip 9. And this one separates the serious from the casual. Track everything. What gets measured gets managed. Track your income, your expenses, your net worth, your business metrics, your time. Millionaires are obsessively aware of their numbers. Not because they're anxious about money, but because clarity creates confidence, and confidence creates action. And tip 10. This one takes real courage. Take calculated risks. Staying in your comfort zone is actually the riskiest thing you can do. Playing it safe feels safe, but it keeps you exactly where you are. The wealthiest people in the world aren't reckless, but they are willing to take calculated, informed risks on the right opportunities. Learn to tell the difference between a calculated risk and a gamble. Then start taking massive action. Look, stepping into the unknown is scary. But when you feel that fear, that's a sign you're about to grow. Now, before we wrap up, I want to share what I think is the single most underrated wealth accelerator that almost nobody talks about. Focus. And I don't mean that in a general pay attention kind of way. I mean laser sharp, obsessive, relentless focus on one goal at a time. Here's why this matters so much. Most people who want to become millionaires are scattered. They're trying 5 different business ideas at the same time. They're consuming information about 15 different investment strategies. They're starting things and not finishing them. And the result? A little bit of progress in a lot of directions, which is basically the same as no progress at all. The millionaires I've studied did the opposite. They picked one thing, went all in on that one thing, and didn't let anything pull them away until it was producing real results. So how do you actually avoid distractions in a world that's designed to distract you? Here are 3 things that actually work. First, eliminate, don't manage. Don't try to manage social media or gaming apps. Just delete them. Don't try to manage notifications. Turn them off completely. The goal is elimination, not willpower. Second, time block ruthlessly. Your most important wealth-building work gets done first thing in the morning, before the world starts demanding your attention. Protect that time like it's a meeting with the most important client of your life, because it is. Third, define your one most important goal daily. Write it at the top of every single day. Before you do anything else, ask yourself, does what I'm about to do move me closer to this goal or further away? If the answer is further away, it doesn't get done today. Focus is free. And honestly, it might be the most powerful tool in this entire video. All right, we've talked a lot about what to do, but I promised you the 4 things to avoid. And this might be the most valuable part of this entire video for you. Because the wrong moves early on can set you back years. First thing to avoid, and this one is everywhere right now, the get-rich-quick trap. If something promises you life-changing wealth with little to no effort in a very short amount of time, run. The get-rich-quick industry is a billion-dollar business built on selling hope to desperate people. Real wealth is built through real value creation over real time. There are no shortcuts that skip the work. There are only shortcuts that skip the mistakes. And that's exactly what this video is. Not a path around the work, but a path around the expensive mistakes I made. Second thing to avoid, and high earners fall into this one more than anyone. Lifestyle inflation. The moment your income goes up, your spending goes up to match it. New car, bigger apartment, more nights out. Sound familiar? Yeah, I've been there too. And suddenly you're earning twice as much as you used to, and still have nothing left at the end of the month. Lifestyle inflation is the silent killer of wealth. Every time your income increases, resist the urge to upgrade your lifestyle proportionally. Let your investments grow first. Buy assets that produce income. That's the money you can spend, the money from the income produced by your assets. Your lifestyle can catch up later, and when it does, you'll actually be able to afford it. Third thing to avoid, and this one costs people years, going it alone. Pride is expensive. The belief that you need to figure everything out yourself will cost you years and thousands of dollars in unnecessary mistakes. Every successful millionaire has had mentors, coaches, advisors, and a network of people who help them get there. Find your people. Ask for help. Learn from people who've already done what you want to do. Your ego is not worth more than your future. And if you run into someone negative along the way, just move on. They're not on your journey to financial independence. Fourth thing to avoid, and this one is personal to me, analysis paralysis. I remember spending an entire weekend building out a business plan. Color-coded spreadsheets, market research, competitor analysis, financial projections. It was honestly impressive. I even used 5 different colors. For a business I never launched. I felt productive. I felt like I was making progress. But when Monday came around, I went back to my regular job, and that business plan sat in a folder on my desktop, untouched, for 4 months. I never launched it. I kept telling myself I needed to learn more, research more, prepare more. The real truth, I was scared. And preparation felt safer than action. I missed an entire market window because I was still getting ready. Information without focused, massive action is just entertainment. There will never be a moment when you feel completely ready. The knowledge you need comes from doing. Pick your path. Start moving. Adjust as you go. Waiting for certainty is the most certain way to guarantee you stay exactly where you are. Look, I'm not going to pretend this is easy. It's not. But I'll tell you what it is. It's worth it. Every single uncomfortable decision, every scary moment, every time you wanted to quit and didn't, it compounds. Just like the money does. You came into this video wondering if it's actually possible to go from zero to your first million in 2026. And the answer is yes, but only if you build it on the right foundation. Know your outcome and your why. Write them down right now. Take focused, massive action and constantly adjust. Replicate someone who's already done it. Build multiple income streams one at a time. Invest in yourself. Focus relentlessly. And avoid the 4 traps that derail most people before they ever get started. The path to $1 million is not a secret. It never was. The information has always been available. The only thing that's ever separated the people who make it from the people who don't is whether they actually applied what they knew and took focused, massive action to get there. I want to leave you with something that stuck with me through every setback I've faced on this journey. Life is like a camera. Focus on what's important. Capture the good times. Develop from the negatives. And if things don't work out, just take another shot. Your first million is not a dream. It's a decision. Make it today. If this video gave you value and you're serious about building real wealth in 2026, hit that subscribe button right now. Every week I'm sharing the exact strategies, shortcuts, and mindset shifts that are working right now, so you don't have to learn them the hard way like I did. Now, we just covered the foundational principles, the cheat code, valuable tips, powerful tools, and some costly mistakes to avoid. You now know more about building wealth than most people will learn in a lifetime. But here's the thing. Knowing the steps is only half the battle. Because the reason most people never reach their first million isn't a lack of information. It's the way they think about starting a business. And that's a completely different problem. In my next video, I'm going to share with you businesses you can start to become a millionaire. Not motivation, not hype, proven. If you thought this video was valuable, trust me, you're going to want to watch the next video to get your mind fully committed on the path to wealth creation.